and we were talking all the time. We talked about Biden's decline here on this show.
Years.
Donkey vote for years.
For years and years.
Right-wing Trumpians. Oh, don't they understand what a great president Biden is?
Well, remember that when they would say, that was fake news. And remember there was the moment, deep fake, and all this sort of thing. And there was the moment at the G7. Remember when he wandered off, and Emmanuel Macron just had to kind of go like this and pull him back into frame because he'd just gone over and he was sort of saluting the air somewhere. and it was like, well, he's lost it. And they were like, no, this is fake news. This has been deceptively edited.
Yes.
And everybody, so here's the thing, all of these commentators and all of the people who are writing these books and all of these exposés now, they were the ones who were saying that, he's perfectly fine. And remember Joe Scarborough from MSNBC? This Joe Biden is the best Joe Biden there's ever been.
He's probably right. He's probably right.
Well, he made another big call this week. So he said the AOC was a very the leader of the Democrats, the future visionary.
Oh, please, God, yes, please.
That'd be so
let
good.
AOC be the future of the Democrats.
The rewriting of history here is incredible. And you've got to figure like Jake Tapper, who was part of this cover-up, who facilitated it, who attacked people, who questioned Joe Biden's cognitive decline. When he pens a book saying, no, this was terrible and I had nothing to do with it, please. We cannot allow that.
That's
and it was cheap fakes. That was the phrase. Cheap fakes. That was the phrase that they used.
Now, I want to talk more about the leadership because the leadership of the Liberal Party is absolutely critical. And if you're in the Liberal Party and you don't understand how important this is to the people of Australia, if you think it's some sort of tricky thing to advance yourself or get yourself on, or the focus groups or your mates through the investor group or whatever, you're making a huge mistake. If you get this wrong, you really let Australians down. You let them down last weekend. Don't let them down again this week. Just going to say a couple of things. Campbell Newman has sent me a text talking about Sussan Ley. And I'll quote Campbell Newman from when he was... So I'll just, the Federal Environment Minister, this is talking about Sussan Ley, a Federal Environment Minister that overturned Campbell's high-value project that his government had approved for Cape York. It was meant to provide real jobs and economic opportunity for Aboriginal people in remote communities, and Sussan Ley was led by the nose by Canberra bureaucrats in her department and killed the project using the environmental protection, etc., etc. Absolutely disgraceful in Campbell Newman's opinion. He goes on with some other things as well. I'd just like to say about Angus Taylor, I thought pretty much the only highlight during the election campaign with the various debates and so on was how Angus Taylor took the fight up to Jim Chalmers. I thought it was a very impressive debate. I thought that was one of the few highlights.
Sorry, but can I just inject a little bit of, we all just watched the same campaign here, and just a moment ago we were talking about the economic policies, that the Liberals brought to the table. And I'm sorry, but he was the shadow treasurer, and what did we have in the way of prosecuting a real case for tax cuts and smaller governments? They got all muddled up on working from home and cashiering public servants. That was it. And then you get a little bit of a fuel excise tax cut. They really, really, really need to get their act together in terms of really figuring out.
Policy,
there was a chart in The Economist this week. They worked out that Australia has more public service per capita than just about any other developed nation.
And it was a year ago that I had Angus Taylor at a Liberal Party event, which I hosted. It was a debate where he clearly made the point that it would be Liberal Party policy to cut the number of public servants in Canberra by 36,000, and that was a commitment. Now, you can blame Angus Taylor and you can blame Sussan Ley. Both of them were deputies in the election campaign, but the blame has to sit with the leader, Peter Dutton, and the HQ that ran that. Yes, of course, you're right to criticise. You're right to criticise, but any criticism, I'm afraid that the Liberal Party have to be recognise that any criticism of Angus Taylor, they can also apply to Sussan Ley, who was the deputy during that election.
Of course, but I think, in my mind, Angus Taylor's performance during the election campaign was underwhelming, to put it mildly. But if the choice is between him and Sussan Ley, well, it's Angus Taylor every day of the week and twice on Sundays. It's no question. If you want to rebuild the party, if you want to actually have any chance of holding Labor accountable for the next 3 years and actually being in a position to take a policy platform that's sound to the next election, you need to start today. You can't just write off the next couple of years and say, oh, well, we'll have a different leader by the time the election
We'll have a
comes around.
review into what went wrong, and we'll do this, and we'll do that.
You need to start
Get on the ground
today.
running, exactly.
And I think I'm going to be talking to Jacinta Nampijinpa-Price shortly, but Angus Taylor, Jacinta Price, that's the team to rebuild the Liberal Party.